Very well, so just as we had informed you earlier, this is an interactive segment every day, Monday through Thursday, and we appreciate your feedback. So Luke Mayo, Kwananda Cherono, Meshak Mwangi, Kipkurui, Amos Sigay from Bomet, Shanice J from Mombasa Bamburi, Kibet Karamcha from Iten, Kevo Chacha, yeah, we have a Kevo on board, Boniface Mwebi of Kisii, and Ted Kaburu of Rero. Thank you very much for having kept us company. Remember, we are not done. Yesterday, the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics released a certain report, and that states that at least 90% of those who were absent from work, are not too sure when they will report to work. This is something we're going to be focusing on because this highlights on the plight of women, especially in business, who have been rendered, jobless during COVID-19, and what interventions they want put in place to ensure that they continue living healthy lives and continue taking care of their children and their families. We're going to be joined shortly by the chairperson of Women in Business, that is Mary Motoni, who's going to be joining us in a meeting here online to just tell us if the report indeed is the actual state of what is happening on ground, and if it is not, then what is the actual state, as well as looking at the way forward, given that now the FKE CEO Jacqueline Mugo is quoted saying that companies have continued to write to the Ministry of Labour, indicating their plans to lay off employees. So then what will this mean? Remember, government still has also done a stimulus recovery, economy recovery kind of setup to just see which areas are going to be resilient, or rather remain resilient during COVID-19. The reason why we are having even some restaurants opened, and if I can paraphrase what CS Health, Mutahi Kagwe, had earlier on said, is that to just continue supporting the economy. And given the directive, the first directive was the closure of bars and restaurants, and now we have restaurants operating under the laid COVID-19 guidelines to support the economy. So do keep it right here. We encourage your feedback. My Twitter handle is @ReManyara. I'm sure Ram Aguko, yours it's Ram Aguko on Twitter. Our official station handle is @KBC Channel 1 TV. Just want to remind you that we're live and we value your feedback.
As you talk about that, Regina, in terms of the survey that you've stated there, I was reading just to unfold some part of what that survey was saying. It was indicating that 30%, actually 30.5% specifically, of households in Kenya were unable to pay their rent. And as agreed, as the economic impact of the COVID-19 is hitting the families. So we have an indication of 21.5% of households who usually pay rent on due dates were unable to pay rent in the month of April, citing reduced or reduction in earnings. Now, when this data came through, we have to remember that we have the Federation of Kenya Employers, that is FKE, and they revealed that at least 342,300 jobs have been lost in the last 2 months. Get that number. The number of jobs that have been lost in the last 2 months are at least 342,300 jobs that have been lost in the last 2 months because of the COVID-19 pandemic. It continues to ravage the economy. It continues to lay havoc in different sectors. The FKE CEO, Jacqueline Mugo, revealed that companies continue to write to the Labour Ministry, indicating that they have plans to lay off. These include 20 members of FKE.
Our reporter on the businesses, that is O'Brien Kimani, attended that particular function yesterday with the National Cabinet Secretary, CS there, Ukuri Etani, when this report was being released, and filed a detailed report that also went further to just look at the deficit, the revenue collection deficit that is likely to drop by close to $500 billion shillings due to the economic slowdown as a domino effect of COVID-19. How about we look at that report?
A slowdown in business activity as a result of the COVID-19 induced trade and travel restrictions is expected to add more pressure on the Kenya Revenue Authority at a time when the country is facing mounting expenditure squeeze. The shortfall has been caused by reduced tax collection from workers and businesses. As of March this year, tax and appropriation in aid revenue stood at 1.33 trillion shillings, falling short of a 2019-2020 financial year 9-month target by 211 billion shillings.
In the next 3 years, our trajectory was showing that, we'll have near zero budget deficit. That was our desired point. And we are determined to go along that route because in the interest of this country, that we reduce, that we manage our own expenditure based on our own solutions, based on our revenue. But then unfortunately, as we embarked on this, now we've been hit by this shock. Never planned for, never anticipated in any way, and therefore all the parameters and the assumptions that we put in place are now going to change. And it's on this basis that we expect low revenue from the areas that I've already cited earlier.
Treasury CS Ukuru Yatani says the drop is likely to be worse in the coming days. The below target tax collections are also expected to drop further in the coming days after the government lowered various taxes to cushion Kenyans against negative impact of the coronavirus. President Uhuru Kenyatta assented to the Tax Law Amendments Bill 2020. The law exempts those earning less than 28,000 shillings from paying income tax, while those earning above these will benefit from pay-as-you-earn tax reduction of between 30 and 25%.
The activities within our own economy have seriously slowed down. Some actually grounded to a halt. If you look at tourism, the hotel industry, the general service industry, air transport, general transport has actually gone down. Then that means we are going to have less revenue, actually quite drastic drop in the revenue.
Speaking when he released a survey on the socio-economic impact of COVID-19 on Kenyan households, the Treasury CS has said Kenya is mulling over renegotiating its loan terms with lenders.
We are not very certain yet whether we are going to go for it because the accompanying conditions are a bit tough because we will not be expected to borrow during this period. And at the same time, we are holders of some of the loans which will not actually ideally be the amounts that they are going to give concession for. So we are studying, we are not saying no, but we are studying and making sure that we tailor to our own convenience. According
to the survey, 21.5% of households in Kenya were unable to pay house rent in the month of April due to job losses. The report further says there has been a 51.7% increase in the cost of transport in the same period. O'Brien Kiman for Channel 1 Business.
Now that particular report sets the basis of our next interactive segment. Joining me this morning is the Chair of Women in Business Kenya, Madam Mary Muthoni, to just tell us, especially the figures that have said that the most affected during COVID-19 are women. Some of them with the report saying that, or rather the survey saying that they have been rendered economically inactive. Madam Muthoni, is that the situation on ground?
Thank you very much, Regina. And I would want to first thank you for allowing me to be here this morning. And to agree with your statement at this juncture, really, we have to say that most of the people who are being affected, they may not be infected, but affected by COVID-19 are women. If you look at 70% globally, 70% of health workers are women. 60% of women's employment in the informal sector are women. What does that tell us? That most of what that means is most of the time when these women are in the informal sector, they can be dismissed at any time without warning. They can be, and they don't have any protection whatsoever. If you look at domestic violence again, it is on the rise with about 25% in some of the countries. So that tells you that most of the people who are affected by COVID-19 are women. With most of the schools closed right now and more children are at home, more women are responsible for taking care of the children at home. So really, that again explains as to why women are affected. In Nairobi's upmarket area, if you drive along the roads today, you'll find the so-called mama fua are more on the road vis-a-vis other times. It's because of the COVID times, because sometimes the households, they believe that they don't want to allow people from outside to come to their houses. And so to speak, Regina, women are more affected by COVID-19.
So from where you sit as a chair of the Women in Business organization, or rather umbrella, what are you doing to support women-led businesses during this time?
We are very keen into ensuring that they are marketing their businesses more online. And we have very many ways of marketing with all the medium of communication, especially on social media, ensuring that their products are being seen every other day, ensuring that they are buying and selling amongst themselves, because they can only be their customers, their own customers at this juncture during this COVID period. Ensuring that there's also strict in terms of delivery of the products, so that they do not infect or affect the people who they are delivering their products to. And also we are having a lot of Zoom meetings to ensure that we give them more information on what is happening during this time of COVID. If anything, if you have information, you're able to organize yourself. We also have trainings that are going to help them organize themselves and change ideas. For instance, some of the categories or some of the sectors are almost down completely. And the only thing somebody can do, you cannot wait until COVID is over so that you think of what to do. This is the time to think of how to be dynamic. And you can be dynamic in terms of changing the course. You see, those are some of the things that we are training the women. We are also very keen into pushing into preventive measures so that they don't get infected. For instance, we have partnered with Kenya Pipeline Company to ensure that we are distributing sanitizers to women in business in the market areas, because at the market level, that is where the infections are likely to start. And if they hit the marketplaces where we have the bottom of the pyramid, women at the marketplaces, it's going to be very bad for us. Again, those are the people we rely upon every other day. So
with the current measures that have been put in place by government, Madam Muthoni, what's your take, being a player within the business circle? Are you satisfied with the current government measures that have been put to stem or rather counter COVID-19?
I would say yes, and we can keep on improving because this is not something that was expected or anybody was expecting. So we are learning the ropes as we move, and we are learning from other areas what has happened before.
Now, we are expecting the budget presentation 2020-21 in the next few weeks. What are your expectations from a business point of view?
Sorry?
What are your expectations of the budget 2020-2021 that is just but a few weeks away?
Yes, I would expect to see a lot touched on the tax issues. I know there's a bit of it that has been touched on, but really we can go more because the SMEs right now, most of them are not making money at all. So I would expect that to see issues on tax being dealt with more deeply. I would also expect more support for the SMEs, and especially in terms of giving them business from the government. We already know that we already know that we have the 30% procurement rule that has been there, and if for sure we can be able to see more and more women, more and more youths who are getting engaged in business, and we pray that we stabilize faster so that we are able to trade.
Now, post-COVID-19, businesses, we are saying there's life after COVID-19. For women in business, what do you think, or what are you planning to do differently, especially because these times are going to change? Post-COVID, things will be a little bit different. So what are the things, what are your plans in future for women in business post-COVID?
To be very sincere, the very first thing is to ensure that the businesses are stabilizing and ensuring that the sectors are coming back to form, ensuring that they are back on track, ensuring that we are getting more market linkages, either with the inter-county, intra-county, and also international. We have plans to ensure that the stabilization of the businesses, the policies that are there are implemented, and we are able to push for more that are going to help the businesses to come to the fore. And of course, there's going to be a lot of mentorship courses to be given to the women in business, because again, if you do not give mentorship cases or mentorship courses to ensure that the women are figuring out on how to get out of the COVID situation that had been there. A lot of networking and partnerships to be introduced for the women in business. Already, I know there are bigger companies that have been holding hands with SMEs to give them markets, so to speak. For instance, we are in partnership with Bidco Africa to ensure that there are women who are in agriculture are able to plant soya, are able to do contractual farming, and they are they get direct markets, and their products to be bought by our partners. So, so to speak, more on groupings of sectors that can be able to bring back the women into form and be able to also link with other people who are doing like mind in their businesses.
As we come to a close, what is your take on the easing of restrictions, especially within the hospitality industry, the restaurants to be precise? What's your take?
As long as we are prone to getting infections, Regina, I am not sure that we should extend into having people move freely, because we are human beings, yes. We want the economy back, but to be very sincere, if it is a threat to our well-being and to our health, then it may not be worth it.
Very well said. Thank you very much, Mary Muthoni, there for making time to be with us and just highlighting the challenges and what opportunities are out there for women post-COVID-19. Thank you very much. Now, as we come to, thank you very much. Now, as we come to a close to the show this morning, want to give just a look at a snippet of a story that our reporter Alan prepared yesterday in regard to supporting small and medium enterprises there, where the Senate Ad Hoc Committee on COVID-19 situation is proposing that only tax-compliant micro and small enterprises get access to liquidity support mulled by the government as coronavirus pandemic fallout deepens. Here's the report.
According to the Senate Ad Hoc Committee on COVID-19 situation, MSMEs in trade, agriculture, tourism, retail remain the worst hit during the COVID-19 pandemic. In its 51st sitting with various stakeholders across the country, the committee recommends for the immediate operationalization of the MSED fund.
To support MSMEs to continue with their businesses during the pandemic, the government to hasten the planned liquidity support for small and medium-sized enterprises through credit to banks and other financial institutions to further promote MSMEs, emphasis to be made to government agencies to procure available items from local funds as much as possible.
And with the expected release of liquidity support to small businesses, not all businesses stand to benefit.
We don't have to, get, direct money to pay their rent. Mr. Speaker, if we protect these businesses, especially in the hospitality sector and tourism sector, through such a wage subsidy fund, we will have affected very many Kenyans. And these businesses are able to demonstrate, one, they pay as you earn, they've been paying for their employees. They're able to demonstrate these have been our cash flows, these have been our turnovers, but during this period, they get at a very discounted rate this money from the banks, which they already have a relationship with, Mr. Speaker, will have done a great service to our country, Mr. Speaker.
In April, in a State of the Nation address, President Uhuru Kenyatta promised an SME credit guarantee scheme to exempt them from complex application procedures and collateral requirements against impact of economic and financial disruptions caused by COVID-19 pandemic.
Treasury reported to us that they were in a very high level or a very advanced stage with the our development partners to get money, a grant, and even some as concessionary loans around, at that point it was 120 billion, to cushion small businesses. Mr. Speaker, if this money is actually channeled through our lending institutions at concessional, very low rates.
At the same time, the committee recommended enhanced accountability and oversight over the COVID-19 Emergency Fund and other funds established in the national and county levels.
The National Treasury and the county treasuries to submit monthly income and expenditure reports to Parliament and the respective county assemblies. Community-level mentoring and evaluation frameworks should be also put in place to ensure proper oversight of emergency COVID-19 funds.
The Senate all called on county assemblies to resume in order to provide their oversight role in monitoring emergency expenses.
Observation that many accounting officers are taking advantage of the pandemic to do emergency procurement and to misuse funds related to sorting out the issue of COVID, Mr. Speaker. They must continue following the public procurement laws that we have, Mr. Speaker.
Kenya's GDP growth for 2020 is expected to decline to 3%, and if extreme shocks persist, growth is expected to go down further to 2.5% as global demand remains weak. The committee is further calling on local sourcing of PPE and masks to support local industries. Alana Oko, Channel 1 Business.
Still keeping up with matters business is that the value of Kenya's top listed firms has shrunk to 1.6 trillion shillings this year to March compared to 2.1 trillion shillings registered last year, according to Africa's top 250 companies report. Now, in the latest ranking by South Africa's Africa Business magazine, that is, Safaricom is the most valuable company among East African listed companies, climbing to 10th position from 14th last year with a market capitalization of 1 trillion shillings. Equity Group Holdings, EABL, KCB Group ranked 82nd, 90th and 92nd respectively. Cooperative Bank is ranked at position 110. Kenya lost 3 companies in the ranking, dominated by South Africa and Egyptian firms, to register 11 companies. Well, now that brings a cup to just a recap what we were having earlier there, just focusing on the impact that COVID-19, or what we want to term as domino effect of COVID-19 and businesses, given the report that was presented yesterday by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics and handled there by the National Treasury, stating that at least 90% of persons who went on compulsory leave are not so sure that they will be going back to work as the effect of COVID-19 continues to bite. Ram?
All right, and that brings us to a close of this show right here on Good Morning Kenya. And as always, it has been a pleasure, and it is a pleasure having you all the way from the beginning till now. My name is Ram Maguko, and before I let you go, I would like to leave you with a word to think about. Do not fix your problems. Don't bother yourself in fixing your problem, but instead try fixing or changing how you think. Through that, you will fix your problems. God bless you. God bless the work of your hands.